You ever feel like you're stuck in a loop, trying so hard to build a good habit or break a bad one, and it just doesn't work? Well, today we're cracking open James Clear's Atomic Habits to find out why. We're going to look at a super simple but honestly revolutionary framework for getting just 1% better every single day. So let's just get right into it. The book opens with a punch to the gut. Literally. This isn't just some random story to grab your attention. This moment, this single event, is where the entire philosophy of Atomic Habits was born. And this injury, it was absolutely catastrophic. We're talking multiple skull fractures, brain swelling so bad they had to put him in a medically induced coma. It was so touch and go that a priest was actually brought in to talk to his parents. This wasn't just a setback. This was a moment that could have ended everything. So after all that, you can imagine, Clear found himself at absolute rock bottom. Becoming a star athlete seemed like a joke. The only thing he could do, the only path forward, was to focus on tiny, almost invisible improvements, to just start small. And this is where we hit our first huge idea. Okay, so this idea of starting small sounds nice, right? But how does that actually turn into something remarkable? To really get this, we've got to look at one of the most powerful examples of this whole thing in action. For about a century, British cyclists were, well, let's be honest, they were pretty terrible. It got so bad that one of the top bike companies flat out refused to sell them bikes because they were worried it would hurt their brand. Ouch. They were the definition of mediocre. But then they hired a new guy, Dave Brailsford, who brought in this one simple idea. And this is where it gets kind of wild. Brailsford's team went on a hunt for tiny 1% improvements in everything. I'm not just talking about the obvious stuff like bike seats. No, they hired a surgeon to teach the riders how to wash their hands properly to avoid getting sick. They tested different massage gels. They even figured out the perfect pillow for each rider to get a better night's sleep. Obsessive? Yeah, maybe. But effective? Oh, you have no idea. So why does all this tiny stuff work? Well, the math is what's really going to blow your mind. If you get just 1% better each day for 1 year, you don't just end up 365% better. No, because of the magic of compounding, you end up nearly 37 times better. And this graph shows you exactly why this is so powerful. Habits are basically the compound interest of self-improvement. The effects just multiply and multiply over time. But here's the scary part. Look at that other line. Getting 1% worse every day also compounds, and it takes you all the way down to nearly zero. It's a double-edged sword for sure. Okay, but this brings up a huge question, right? A feeling I know you've had. You start a new habit, you're doing it every day for weeks, and crickets. Nothing seems to be happening. Clear has a name for this, the Valley of Disappointment. It's that frustrating gap between what you think your progress should look like and what it actually is. And this is where most people quit, not realizing all that effort isn't gone. It's just being stored up. So if the secret is just to keep going and push through that valley, what's the best way to actually do that? Well, this leads us to the book's first major challenge, to how we normally think about this stuff. And this right here is such a game changer. We're so quick to blame ourselves when we fail, right? Oh, I just don't have enough willpower. Clear says that's just wrong. Bad habits keep coming back, not because you don't want to change, but because you have the wrong system for change. Just think about it for a second. Winners and losers, they often have the exact same goals. Every single team in a league wants to win the championship. So the goal itself can't be what makes the difference. When you focus only on goals, you work like crazy, you hit the goal, and then you stop. But a systems-first approach focuses on the process, the daily habits, and that's what creates progress that actually lasts. And it all boils down to this one incredible line from the book. It just nails it. Your goals are great, they tell you where you're going, but it's your systems that actually get you there. So stop stressing about the finish line and start building a better road to run on. But okay, hold on. There's another layer to this, something even deeper and more powerful than just having good systems. And that's your identity. So Clear breaks this down using this awesome metaphor. Think of change like an onion. The outside layer is your outcomes, the results you want, like losing weight. The middle layer is your processes, the habits and systems you use. But the core, the deepest, most important part is your identity, what you truly believe about yourself. And this is where most of us get it completely backward. We start from the outside. We focus on the result. We think, I want to be thin. But real, lasting change works the other way around. It starts from the inside out. It starts by asking, who is the type of person I want to become? Let me give you the perfect example from the book. Imagine two people are offered a cigarette. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." See that? They still see themselves as a smoker who is trying to be something else. The second person says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." It seems like a tiny difference, but it signals a massive shift in their identity. It's a complete shift in your mindset. The goal isn't to write a book. The goal is to become a writer. The goal isn't to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. Okay, so this is the secret sauce, right? This whole identity thing. But how do you actually do it? How do you just decide to have a new identity? You know, what's super fascinating is where the word identity even comes from. It's from Latin, and it literally means repeatedly. So your identity is just your repeated beingness. In other words, your identity is nothing more than the sum of your habits. You become what you repeatedly do. And the cool thing is, the process for this is actually really simple. Just 2 steps. First, decide who you want to be. Not what you want to get, but who you want to be. A healthy person? A patient parent? Then you just have to prove it to yourself with small, tiny wins. And I absolutely love this metaphor Clear uses. He says every single action you take is like casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. Every time you go to the gym, that's a vote for I'm a healthy person. Every time you write one paragraph, that's a vote for I'm a writer. One little vote won't change your mind about yourself, but as those votes start piling up, the evidence becomes impossible to ignore. So at the end of the day, meaningful change isn't about some huge, dramatic transformation. It's about those tiny decisions, the small habits, the daily votes that you cast for the person you want to become. So the only question left is, who are you voting to become today?